Welcome to another installment of the SportsRap Podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio. You can tune in on Facebook. SportsRap Podcast is the group page, or you can go to TuneIn and search Heat 100 Radio, and we will be live. Or you can go to heat100radio.com, where you can be up to date on everything Heat 100 Radio and SportsRap and all of the shows that are present here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get it cracking. Definitely going to talk some Eagles. We're going to talk a lot of football. I'm going to go through again a revamped concussion protocol. So all the stuff that I talked to you the last couple of weeks about the Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins situation is basically the biggest point in their adjusting. So the NFL and the NFL Players Association had come together over the last couple of weeks, and they revised the concussion protocol. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes. But as always, you know how the routine goes. News, updates, scores. Now that we're in NFL season, we give you the NFL scores, and then we go right into the NFL talk. So let's get it cracking. Anybody that's with me, you know what to do. When you tune in, send your comments. If you got your comments, make sure you let me know who you are so I can acknowledge you when I read your comments. My guy, Richard Drummond, I know you're tuned in. I know who you are. Robert Reeves, these are some of my regulars. I'm sure our partner who couldn't be here with us today, Baldy, is tuned in. So we may get a word from him, we may not, but we'll see how it goes. So Draymond Green, you know the story with him. He is apparently taking some time off, taken away from the team after the incident with him and Jordan Poole. 22-year-old rookie leads the LIV, the most recent LIV event. He could walk away with a $4 million payday. His name is Eugenio Shakara. He forfeited his final year of college to go and play golf. And like I said, he could pocket a $4 million payday, which is astronomical for someone 22 years old. Roger Goodell hopes to see a 4-team European NFL division. So the NFL, with all these London games, and then this year they also have one in Germany, are looking to expand overseas. So they're looking to add another division with 4 more teams into the NFL, but that division will be a complete division of European teams. The Sixers are signing guard Mac McClung to an Exhibit 10 contract. Team USA is reportedly trying to recruit Joel Embiid to play for the USA instead of France. As you know, Joel Embiid had previously gotten French citizenship, and most recently, within like the last week or so, it was announced that he has also garnered U.S. citizenship. Dolphins QB Teddy Bridgewater has also gone into concussion protocol following yesterday's game against who did they play yesterday? Forgot who they played, but the Jets. Yeah, so he's in concussion protocol right now as well. Megan Rapinoe, a big part of the U.S. women's national team, calls for removal of the owners of the National Women's Soccer League who are implicated in abuse scandals. The Warriors' practice fight seemed to stem from Jordan Poole's behavior, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. Le'Veon Bell, former Steelers running back, is set to fight ex-MMA fighter Uriah Hall. LeBron James wants to own a team in Las Vegas. Tampa Bay Lightning suspend their defenseman Ian Cole pending investigations on sexual misconduct. And the Eagles remain undefeated for only about the third or fourth time. So we got to give some applause for the Eagles there. Definitely some applause for the Eagles. And we'll talk about the Eagles in just a minute. That is, folks, your news, your updates. We will now move into some scores. Other than football and baseball, it was kind of light. Basketball season, we had some preseason games yesterday, so I'll give you those scores. Baseball had one game yesterday. The San Diego Padres blanked the Mets, ousting them from the playoffs 4-0. In the NBA, the Bulls outlast the Raptors 115-98. The Pelicans get by the Spurs 111-97. The Lakers get by the Warriors by 3, 124-121. The Blazers fall to the Kings 126-94. And the Timberwolves just edge out the Clippers 119-117. Those are most of your scores. So now, folks, since we are here and we're just getting started, we're going to jump right into our football scores before we take our first break. After that first break, we will come back and talk all of our other stories that we have going on today. So, here we go. Let's get it back to Thursday, which started off week 5 in a snooze fest. Like, this game was, so far, I'm going to say the worst game of the season. There have been some other slow games, but this game was like the worst, in my opinion, so far of the season. There was no touchdown scored in this game at all. Not one touchdown scored in this game, which is crazy, because you would think these guys are pros and, somebody should be able to score a touchdown. Well, that score Thursday, Indianapolis 12, Denver 9. So, after watching bits and pieces of that game, because I couldn't sit through the entire thing. No, I didn't watch the whole thing. Excuse me. I started out watching it, and then it got boring. So I was turning channels, checking to see what else was on. And occasionally I would flip back. Still wasn't any excitement or anything like that. So I thought about it, and I thought about what I saw. And I was looking at Russell Wilson, and I saw what I saw Thursday. And then I was backtracking and thinking about the things that I saw in some other games prior to Thursday. Right. And I just said to myself, something's not right with Russell Wilson. He doesn't look the same. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I get it. I understand guys get older. He's had a very good career. He changed teams, so he's got a new playbook, a new offense. Right. But the type of quarterback that we've known Russell Wilson to be, him adjusting to a new system shouldn't have been as hard as it's looking. And it's not, to me, it's not really looking like it's hard. Right. It's looking like he just doesn't fit.
With the team.
And I don't really like to say to fit with the scheme, because me, as my opinions, I like to feel, or I like to think that the coach needs to adjust his system to the talents of his players, not let the player fit into the system. It's just my thoughts. Right. But it just doesn't look like he fits in the makeup of that team, let alone, like I said, the playbook is something different, because he's a very cerebral quarterback. Right. So I'm feeling like he can catch up on that and get everything he needs into that. Right. But it's just not a good fit, I don't think, for him. Right. Then I do even more research, as I always do my due diligence. And I look and I see that he now has a torn lat in his shoulder.
He do?
So that's possibly
the problem why he's playing ball.
The biggest part of why he's playing the way that he's been playing.
They ain't on the same page of receiver.
I don't know if it's a little bit of both, in my opinion. But when you have the quarterback that has something going on with his shoulder and his lat, it's a problem. It's a major problem, because the quarterback needs his shoulders and his arms to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they're going to be able to work it out. I don't know if Russell's going to be sitting out any games. No reports have come out yet. But as always, you know me, I will keep my ears to the street, my eyes on the story, and let you know what goes on and how that plays out somewhere down the line. Moving on to yesterday, the Giants improved to 4-1 in the London game yesterday, taking out Green Bay 27-22. Buffalo wallops the Steelers 38-3. The Chargers get by Cleveland. That score was 30-28. Minnesota gets by Chicago 29-22. New England blanks Detroit 29-zip. New Orleans gets by Seattle 39-32. Miami with all the problems that are going on in Miami, whoop up on the Dolphins 40-17. Tampa Bay gets by Atlanta 21-15. It's something I'm going to talk about that game that's been the talk of the town. Most recently, right after those games played in pretty much the rest of the night last night. Tennessee gets by Washington 21-17. Same old Carson Wentz. Late interception that was thrown that cost them the game. You know, and I've been saying it for a while now. You know, he was here and he had that one season
MVP
where he was arguably going to be the MVP of that season. He got that injury, couldn't finish out the season.
Right.
Comes back the next year, and he started to decline. And then as his season progressed, his decline progressed.
Right.
So then he got frustrated, whatever happened in the locker room between him and the coaches and whatever, he demanded a trade. He eventually did get traded. Goes to Indy. One season he spent in Indianapolis. The crazy thing about this, and I told people what I'm getting ready to tell you, says an awful lot about a player and how he is determined and what he does with his coaching staff. So his former offensive coordinator here, when he had that possible MVP season, Frank Reich, is now with the Colts.
Right.
He lobbies for this trade. He ends up getting Carson Wentz. At that time, his guy, Carson Wentz, goes through the season. They can't beat the Jaguars to get into the playoffs. Again, Carson Wentz mistakes late in that game cost them the game. The end of one season, this same coach that lobbied for you talked about you to get you there rather.
Right.
Now, in a press conference after that game, does not commit to you.
Right.
And then you end up getting traded to the Washington Commanders. What I said back then, and I'll say it again, says a lot when the guy that lobbied for you doesn't stand up for you and then moves you on to another team. And here we go. Yesterday, we see the same Carson Wentz. Let's see. Houston gets by Jacksonville 13-6. San Francisco beats up on Carolina 37-15 on Baker Mayfield. Another poor outing for Baker Mayfield. I felt like Baker Mayfield was overrated when he first got drafted.
I told that man.
He had maybe one good season. I think he's a rich man's Johnny Manziel. Where I think he's a little bit better than Johnny Manziel, but he's not your franchise. He's not a franchise quarterback. I think at some point he could be an average quarterback in the NFL,
At best.
but he's not a franchise quarterback. And he's been showing that the reason that Cleveland traded him and the way he's been playing in Carolina hasn't shown it that he's an elite quarterback.
Right.
Dallas and their defense get by the Rams 22-10. Philadelphia in Arizona in the desert remain undefeated. They take that game 20-17. And then the night game last night, Cincinnati falls to Baltimore 19-17. So those are your scores from the NFL. And listen, we got to talk some of these games, and like we always do. And I want to go to the Miami game again. And then go back to the Miami game and start there before we get to the Eagles and everything else. And I don't know what the problem is in Miami. I don't know who their doctors are. I don't know their evaluation process. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about the change in the concussion protocol. But they have some issues, and it's all the way across the board. Like yesterday, their backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, got hit, and now he's in concussion protocol.
Yep.
So their top two quarterbacks
Concussion.
are in concussion protocol.
It's not good.
Miami,
Got bad luck.
it's crazy because they made the trade and they got the cheetah.
Great
But it's looking like
a waste.
he's going to be in a frustrated season
Yeah.
because he doesn't have anybody to throw him the ball now.
Yeah, my fantasy league messed up.
It's crazy because, like we said, like the issue with Tua Tagovailoa, and I mean, if you don't know the situation, we can go back and just backtrack it for you, the backdrop of the story real quick. Last Sunday against the Bills, he got banged up, got up, got hit, he got up, he was wobbly. They identified it as a concussion, but he returned to the game. Then they had the short week. He played on Thursday. He got hit again. Went back, apparently had another concussion, a more severe concussion this time, because he was laying on the ground and you saw the odd movements or the odd positioning of his hands. Something was wrong. It was visible. After the fact, the Dolphins put out a statement that it was a private sector doctor, neurologist who evaluated him and said he cleared him to play. After the fact, when the heat came down on Miami, they fired, and the NFL approved it. They fired that independent contracted doctor because his diagnosis was horrible. They said he made several mistakes in his evaluation. And then the Dolphins head coach, in the middle of this, also said that he was happy with the way his quarterback was treated. Dude, your quarterback got knocked out twice. He shouldn't have been playing Thursday anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, most times when guys get concussions,
Take 2 weeks.
they usually don't play the very next week
Right.
for
Right.
safety issues,
Right.
precautionary issues, let alone play again on the short week.
Right.
Craziness.
That makes no sense.
I don't understand why they did it, but they had an investigation. There's still an ongoing investigation because the NFL is going to find out what went wrong when they needed to find out what was going on. Because this is a health issue. It's a health and safety issue, especially with the state of CTE and how that is affecting football players right now. So they're doing everything in their power to try and make things safer. And this is like a black eye on the NFL. This is why they changed the protocol. It's a black eye to the organization of the Miami Dolphins because they handled it incorrectly. They handled it poorly.
Right.
And I just hope that they get it right. And aside from playing football, I hope that this kid, and he's young, I hope Tua can get his bearings back under him and be, functioning. Okay? Yeah, and be functioning. Like I said, let alone the football thing. I just hope that he can get there and be able to function as a human being stably, not unstable, whatever.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens with that. The next game I want to go to, let's see, let's take a pick here. Where do I want to go? Let's go Carolina, San Francisco. And let's talk about Mr. Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, is
Overrated.
very, very overrated. I felt that way when he was drafted very highly, number 1 overall.
He's cocky, too.
A lot of people don't get or don't fully get that players can have great college careers and then it doesn't transfer over into the pros.
Yeah, that's how it is.
It happens.
In all sports.
Your game has to transfer because you go different levels. So the speed of the game changes. Right. Even if you play at an elite college team, when you get to the pros, now you're playing against all grown men. And these men are playing for their livelihoods. But the game is faster. Right. You got position players that are oddly faster than they were in college. Hence, defensive linemen, things of that, offensive linemen who are more athletic, defensive linemen who are more athletic and more quicker or faster than they were in college. Right. So his game, to me, really didn't transfer over. At one point when he had Odell Beckham and he had the running backs, he had some talent. And I'm not saying he doesn't have any talent. He does have some talent, but I don't think he is an elite franchise quarterback.
No,
I think he will be an average NFL quarterback at best.
right.
And the sad thing is they have a little bit of talent down there in Carolina. I mean, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming back healthy.
Yeah, he plays right.
It's just him, in my opinion. It's just he's not the guy. Like, he's a guy, in my opinion, where the Carolina Panthers are now, which he should be,
A backup.
in the role where they're tied in the water, trying to figure out what direction they're going to go in, because that's pretty much where they are right now. But he can't even hold that together because he's had a second or third poor outing in this young season so far. So,
5 weeks. Yeah.
I don't understand what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to change up and adjust things to make better of the season, but it's a long season, so we'll see. Moving on, I want to go to, let's see, I just had it at the top of my head, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, they got one.
They got whomped. Of course, we know who Buffalo is.
Josh Allen.
We know who their defense is. We know who Josh Allen is. We know Stephon Diggs, the other receivers they have there. So we know Buffalo. We know who they are.
Davis,
Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now have some serious issues.
Mike Tomlin.
The quarterback situation, they made the change and they went with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I think they like that.
That move, I feel like should have happened sooner than it did happen last week. In week 4, I think it should have happened sometime in like week 2 or 3. Like Mitchell Trubisky, another one who I think was slightly overrated, who I also think is going to be an average quarterback at best. I think the change came for Pittsburgh because of their notoriety, what they're known for, how they usually are in the NFL, but they're a long way off of that right now. The quarterback situation for them is really hindering their success. There is no success. They're like 1-3, I think now, or 1-4, and whatever. So they have an extremely long road to climb, and I don't know if they're going to be able to climb that mountain to climb. I don't even know if they're going to be able to get to the top. I don't see it getting any better anytime soon.
Right.
And when it does get better, I don't feel like it's going to be greatly better. It may be slightly better, but it's going to be a long season for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pittsburgh Steelers fans. So just get ready, buckle up, and basically look forward to next year for Pittsburgh Steelers, because you've only got one win so far, and it's not looking pretty. Talked about the Baker Mayfield. So before we get to the Eagles talk, last thing I want to get to, and it's something that I saw. I saw the comments first, and just saw a report. It's breaking news. The Panthers have fired their head coach, and I don't think it was his fault. But when we take a break, I'll look at that story and I'll bring the news. I'll bring some details of that story after our first break when we return. So the play, or the controversial roughing the passer call on Tom Brady late in that game. And in my opinion, it's all over Twitter. Of course, you can Google it and find the play and look at the play. In my opinion, they made it seem like he was slung and thrown to the ground.
He didn't hit his head enough.
He rolled over the defender's body, hit the ground. His back did hit the ground, but his head did not touch the ground at all.
Exactly.
He was not slung. If he had been, when you look at the play and you know the difference between being tackled and being slung. If he were slung to the ground, his head would have hit the ground, and at some point, that defender would have lost some of his grip, if not all of his grip, on one of his hands. It's just nature. That's how it goes when you get slung. So he wasn't slung, and that actually helped them win that game. controversial call, extremely controversial call that was all the buzz going into the night game yesterday, and even after the night game. All during the night game and even so early this morning. I don't think that should have been a roughing the passer call. I also, if that was a roughing the passer call, when I was looking at some of the Steelers game, there was an instance when Kenny Pickett took a run and he took a slide. Quarterback and the D-back still hit him as he was sliding. And they tried to say that it was momentum, whatever. And I said, but here's the thing. Where did they make that adjustment on the fly in the game? Because more times than not, when a quarterback slides or begins to slide, he's not allowed to be touched because he's going down. That's the safety and protection of the quarterback. And I say, even if you switch it and you put the quarterback in the pocket and you're rushing the quarterback and your momentum carries you into the quarterback and you hit him, they typically call that roughing the passer. Yeah. So why wasn't it an illegal hit when the quarterback is sliding and he still gets hit? But then you turn around later on, Nate, thanks for tuning in. Then you turn around later on and you get this weak call that changed the game.
Terrible.
And because it was Tom Brady? Like, really? I don't, he came back for this season. I don't think that they're going to live up to the expectations.
No, they're not.
Tom Brady is 45 years old now.
Done.
He's not the Tom Brady that everyone considered the GOAT anymore. He never was mobile, so he's even less mobile now.
Right.
He's been getting hit all season long so far. He's taken more hits, I'm going to say, in these first 5 games than he's taken in any other first 5 games of any other season that he's been a starter. So that call was a very controversial call, one that could have not been made or could have. That call shouldn't have been made. I mean, they're all football players, and I understand the safety issues and things of that nature. But again, when you go back and you look at that play, my opinion did not constitute a roughing the passer. Let's see, who is this? Nate Phillips. He says that was the worst call in NFL history. I think the ref had money on the game and made that BS call.
You never know.
Either that, possibly, or just because it was Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm tired of him.
I mean, it's probably, we can go a lot of different ways with it, with our thoughts on how it went. But basically, bottom line, it was a bad call that changed the game. And I'm just one, as being a referee, I feel like, and a player and a coach, I feel like you should let the players decide the outcome of the game. Shouldn't be decided by the referee making a call that could totally change the game one way or the other. Right. And I think that's what happened yesterday in that game. So, moving along to our Philadelphia Eagles, go out to Arizona, where we haven't won in a long time. Went out there and ended up winning that game 2017. Showed some kinks in the armor, as all teams will do. But again, like I said 2 weeks ago, they are beginning to show you signs of becoming a winning team. Right. I could say that they're a winning team now because they're 5-0, but we've seen some kinks in the armor. We have seen some kinks in the armor, and I admit that. So I also feel like Jalen Hurts is going to get in the film room and make adjustments and see. I think the coach now has a better understanding of his players, a better understanding of game management now that he has relinquished play calling offensively. Right. So I think they'll get together and they'll adjust and make the proper adjustments that they need to make to get better. Right. I also have a small issue just with 2 throws yesterday.
Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, 2 throws yesterday. The one, the interception, that was called back because he dropped the ball. And we saw that on the replay. It wasn't a full interception. But on that play, looking at that play, it looked like he was trying to stretch it to Devontae Smith.
Is that the one?
And A.J. Brown was right in front.
Is that the one they
I think if he had tried to get it to A.J. Brown, that he would have gotten that completion. Let's see here. Nate says yesterday's game proved we can be pretty or we can win ugly, but we cannot play like we did yesterday against Dallas Sunday night. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's a big game coming up. Thanks for that comment, Nate. Sunday night game is a big game against Dallas. The toughest part is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. We don't know right now what quarterback to prepare for. They are, as far as Dallas, are attempting to have Dak return. But there's no reports of him that he's been throwing. He had surgery on his throwing hand on his thumb. Folks, you need your thumb as part of your hand for everything. You can't grip the ball. You can't throw it. And it's a high potential for fumbles, for mishandling the ball. Excuse me. So I think Cooper Rush will play and start. I think the Eagles can do some things to Cooper Rush. But they have to be precise and they have to be definitive in their execution on offense. Dallas has a very good defense. Very good defense. I hate to say it, but I'm talking football and I got to call a spade a spade. They have a very good defense, and I think that's what's gotten them to the point where they are. Because the offense, to me, is not all that great. It's that defense that's carrying them right now. And the defense, like I said, is really good. So we're going to need a heavy dose of running game against the Cowboys to slow down that pressure. But getting back to yesterday's game. Like I said, those were the two throws. One throw was that one. Then the second one was that late throw, that third down. He missed the touchdown. Threw it into a crowd. You could argue that Quez should have caught it. I felt like at that point you should have called a read option or a run pass option, RPO play there to use some more of that clock because it got chippy. Well, not chippy, but it got close, giving that ball back to Kyler Murray late in that game and with them going to no huddle. But they kick the field goal. They go up 2017. And they drive. The Cardinals come back, and the Cardinals drive. They drive. Horrible mistake by Kyler Murray. You slid too early, son. I don't know what you were thinking. If you had took one more step, a juke, you could have got that first down. And at worst, you could have went in and possibly scored a touchdown or tied the game up. Then you get up and you spike the ball. Like, where is your knowledge of the game as the quarterback? Like we say, you're the point guard of that team. You're supposed to be on sync with your coach and know what goes on. So I fought both of them for that. Tyler Murray for the slide early, and then the spike, and then Kingsbury for not picking up on that. So at that point, they had to kick. And I think there were issues with their kicker because he's terrible. He's bad.
Jimmy Johnson cut him.
That kicker's bad. For the sake of competition, Nate says, for the sake of competition, I think Dallas is rushing Dak back too early. But when he comes back, Dallas might have a QB controversy if Dak comes back and they start long again. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a controversy. I think when he's ready to come back, he'll come back.
He's going to be the number one.
I think they will be in a very similar situation to what the Eagles were with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, where you've got Carson Wentz as your starter. And this is the 17 season when he was playing like the franchise quarterback. And then you got Nick Foles, your backup, but you know what you get out of Nick Foles. You know what you're going to get. And I think Dallas could be very similar with that right now when Dak comes back. It's like Dak is our franchise quarterback, but we know what we got in Cooper Rush. We can ride the tide. We can ride the wave with him.
Right.
But I think the Eagles, like I said, the Eagles have shown me so far in these 5 games that they can get through adversity. Mm-hmm. They can play with some urgency when they need to. And they are making the proper adjustments in game and so far from game to game. Right. Like yesterday, they got that ball, and late in that game, they ran the ball. And like I said, that last throw, I think, should have been an RPO, where Jalen Hurts had the opportunity to run and maybe run outside and just see what he could get just to keep that clock moving, because at that point, they were out of timeouts. So now that they've got to rush, and at some point, they're going to have to spike the ball maybe once or twice to get in field goal range. And then we knew how their kicker was. We knew they had a horrible kicker.
It was terrible.
But I just think that the Eagles should have ran the ball a little bit more later on in that game. Like I said, they tried, they did it, but then they made the mistakes. And that's been the MO of the Cardinals so far this season. Either the coach and the quarterback are not in sync in game,
not on the same page, or
they make mistakes like they made yesterday. 2 mistakes on one series that could have arguably got you a first down and a chance to win the game before you went for the chance to tie. Once they made the mistake, they had no choice but to play for the tie. And fortunately for the Eagles, it didn't pan out. Rich, thanks for tuning in as always. So, again, like I said, the Eagles did show some kinks in the armor. But the last 2 weeks, they showed that they can fight through adversity. Jacksonville made a threat. They overcame that threat. Yesterday, they made a threat. Cardinals made a threat. They overcame that threat. So, again, I think the Minnesota game was an early test, in my opinion. I think yesterday's game was somewhat of a test. But our biggest test so far is going to be next week. Mm-hmm. Hey, Rich, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I think our biggest test of the season so far is going to be next week. Division game against Dallas. But even though
the game in Dallas
is here, Sunday night, the game is here.
That's going to be sold out.
So I think the Eagles are just going to sneak by. Ahmadavi, thanks for tuning in. Ahmad. Richard says the problem is they aren't scoring in the second half. That's going to come up and bite them. Yes, I think that is the biggest issue, Rich. I agree with that. But I think they're going to have to hold possession
run the ball
against the Cowboys. And that means I'm talking offensively. It means run the ball, chew that clock up, wear that defense down. Right. So late in the game, they have a slightly better chance if it gets close because that defense will be worn down. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the offense is okay, but I think the Eagles' defense can handle that offense. The problem is, let's see, Richard says again, let me see. Where's that comment? It says against Dallas, they have to run the ball down their throats, not passing. Yeah, that's what I said. They have to run the ball. They have to run the ball. They have to beat them down. They have to power them down. And I think if they do that, they can maintain and hold on and win. And also, Rich, I said that I think they have to be definitively precise in their execution. Not alone third down, just completely across the board. They've got to be precise in their execution. So, battle of the former teammates, friends yesterday, the quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts yesterday, 26 of 36, 239 yards, 6.6 average yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions throwing, only sacked twice for 21 yards. Kyler Murray had to throw more because they were behind and trailing. 28 for 42, 250 yards, a 6-yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. First downs total for the Eagles, 24, 1 less at 23 for the Cardinals. 12 passing for the Eagles, 16 passing for the Cardinals. Richard says that Dallas D-line is fast, but not overpowering. So the Eagles' O-line can wear them right. The Eagles can wear them down. If they stick to the running game, yes. Then Nate says we can run the rock as long as our line stays healthy. Right now they aren't too healthy. That concerns me. Yeah, but they showed yesterday that the perseverance, Nate, that they can run the ball. So if they can still run the ball, they have enough on that line where they can run the ball and sustain some games. Rushing first downs for the Eagles, 12, 7 for the Cardinals. Total yards of offense, 357 for the Eagles, 363 for the Cardinals. Rushing yards total, 139 for the Eagles and 124 for the Cardinals. The Eagles rushed the ball 33 times. The Cardinals ran it 26 times. Folks, that is your NFL Week 5 recap. Coming up tonight, closing out Week 5, Las Vegas at Kansas City, Monday Night Football. We are going to take our first break. Nate and Rich, thanks for tuning in. Sit tight. You will know when we are back. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that change adjustment in the NFL concussion protocol and some other stories that we've got coming in. Lastly, before we close out, though, one more comment from Richard. He says, Jordan Mailata is supposed to be back, and that will help Hurts. Yes, definitely will help. And, I'm still waiting on reports to see what the reports are about the injury to Jason Kelce. But as I was watching that game with my folks yesterday, I mentioned that he was going to come back because that's the type of player he is. And he did come back and finish out that game. So, folks, you are tuned in. Sports Rap right here on Heat 100 Radio. It's your boy D. Frank is in the building.
Yes, sir.
We want to be on the other side in just a couple seconds. So, stick with us. Stay there. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Yeah, I was down.
And welcome back to another installment, second half of the Sports Rap Podcast, right here on Heat 100 Radio. It's your boy, Sports Rap D, in the building. Frank is in the building today. And before we continue on with the rest of the show, I've got to get to this. And I didn't get to it because, it's NFL season and we got right into our NFL talk this morning. But I got to give a shout out to the Fightins. Philadelphia Phillies.
That's right.
First time in the playoffs in 11 years. First time.
Swept them boys.
Let's give them some applause, too.
On to the Braves.
Going to Atlanta to face the Braves in the National League Divisional Series.
Going to win in 5.
I think it's going to be a fight. I think the Phillies have picked up some heat, picked up some steam, gained some momentum.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think, I don't know. I'm not going to give a pick or thoughts on how I feel about it.
I think we're going to win.
Right now, I'm enjoying the moment, and I just want to see a good series. I don't want to see them, after what they did, going to St. Louis and sweeping. I don't want that to fall off, going just because we're playing the Braves. I want them to keep fighting. So I think it's going to be a good series. Like I said, I'm not going to jinx it or anything and try and make a prediction of how many games the series is going to go. I'm just happy to see them there, and I just want to see them fight. And I think they will fight and make some noise. Even if they don't, I'm not even going to say that, but I just want to see them fight. The update that I had for you earlier, the Carolina Panthers have fired Matt Rule. In 3 seasons, he amassed an 11-27 record.
Oh, that's terrible.
Bad record. Horrible record.
Before that.
And it's crazy because when they hired him, he was supposed to be the innovative coach that was supposed to change things up for them, but they have a tough issue. And I don't know what their quarterback coaching staff is like. I don't know what the executives are looking at or their scouting staff when they're evaluating quarterbacks, but they have done a very poor job in evaluating quarterbacks. Even in the trade, they got Baker Mayfield, and you haven't gotten any better. So Matt Rule fired by the Panthers this morning after 3 seasons and 11-27 record. So, getting back to the Tua Tagovailoa situation, very, very bad situation. Like I said, it's a bad situation. that could possibly get worse now that we know Teddy Bridgewater is in concussion protocol. So arguably, I guess they'll get it right and he won't play next week. We hope. But you never know. The way things are going with Miami, we never know what's going to happen. So, in all of this investigation, the NFL and the NFL Players Association have made changes to the concussion protocol.
Right.
Okay, so while the investigation was going on, they determined that Miami's medical staff and unaffiliated medical professional followed the step-by-step process of league protocol. The joint statement between the NFL and the NFL Players Association agreed that the outcome in this case is not what was intended when protocols were drafted in 2013. Somebody just left me a comment. Nate, feel sorry for Tua. Yes, a whole lot of us feel sorry for Tua.
Yeah, me too.
Nate, I appreciate what your thoughts on that. You know, I'm with you on those thoughts. But in actuality, reality shouldn't have happened.
He should have not played.
He shouldn't have came back in the second half against Buffalo Sunday.
4 days.
And no way in hell
4 days.
he should have played on Sunday. Even if they didn't say it was a concussion, just by his actions, the way he got up from that hit.
He almost fell down again.
Players had to help this guy off the field. Shouldn't have played. And like I said, even if you didn't declare it concussion, he should not have played 4 days after that. No way in hell he should have played 4 days after that.
I know, I like the coach. I don't know.
So, in the new protocol, they have a new term. The term is called ataxia. ATAXIA.
Right.
And it's part of the no-go, it's part of the mandatory no-go symptoms, which means if players have certain symptoms, they will not play regardless. Let's see. Richard says there's no way he should have played in that second half against the Bills. You saw him walking like a drunk toddler off the field and then passed every protocol play against him. Rich, I'm going to talk a little bit about that with this article I got right here. And then Nate says, yes, big fact. Absolutely. So, per the statement, ataxia is defined as, and I quote, the abnormality of balance and stability, motor coordination, or dysfunctional speech caused by a neurological issue, end quote. If a player shows any signs of ataxia during the concussion protocol, he will not be allowed to return to the game and will receive the follow-up care mandated by the league's protocol.
Give it the doctor said.
So, there you have it. The adjustment is made. They have a must no-go.
No-go.
A mandatory, not a must. A mandatory no-go. So, if you show any signs,
from the league,
heavy, light, you will not play. If your team plays you, I'm sure there will be some fines and some more investigations coming down the pipe. But, again, abnormality of balance. Definitely saw that on Sunday.
Saw that.
Stability, motor coordination, and dysfunction. Definitely saw that on Sunday.
The doctor said he could be fired too.
Saw motor coordination and dysfunctional speech caused by a neurological issue. Definitely saw that on Thursday when he was laying on his back. Let's see. Nate says, Miami lost our respect from me. They was worried about winning the game and not worried about the player. Absolutely, I can get behind that.
Coach too.
Let's see here. Richard says, you mean to tell me in the second half of the Bills game when they asked him questions and put him through the test of mobility and the eye test and all of that jazz, and then out of those 4 days, 4 days after he passed all those protocols to get back and play in those 4 days, there's no way possible. Look at Hines from the Colts. He had the same thing, and they brought him. They brought him out immediately. There's no way they should have played Tua in that position for one game where he could have lost his career. Absolutely, Rich, and let alone his career, he could have lost his stability of life outside of football. Like I said earlier, I just hope that this guy can come back and be a stable citizen, a stable human being. So, in this investigation, and this is somewhat touching on some of the things that Richard just said in the comment that I just wrote you. Right. In the investigation, both the NFL and the NFLPA determined that when Tua stumbled after a hard tackle in the Dolphins game against the Bills, he, quote unquote, fell on his back. Then his head hit on the ground. He shook his head several times, and after several steps, he stumbled and fell. This is what they said in the joint statement. Then we go to the Dolphins medical team and the unaffiliated, big word there, key word, unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant properly viewed the video of the play in question as required and followed it with the locker room examination of Tua before he cleared to return to the game. The Dolphins physician cleared Tua to play. Tua is supposed to be your franchise QP and you put him in that position. Yes, Rich, absolutely ridiculous. Let's see. If it was a back injury, you guys both know that if you're hurt your back, if you hurt your back, what's the first thing you do is you grab your back. Absolutely. He never grabbed his back
at all.
Because it was a head injury and you could tell from the movement. It happened. It was a head injury and it was plain as day. Absolutely. So, after being cleared, statements shared that Tua reported back and ankle injuries.
Right.
Okay, earlier in the game.
He lied.
All right. He told the team medical staff that he aggravated his back injury in the play where he was tackled hard, which caused him to stumble. As such, Tua did not show signs of symptoms of concussion during his locker room exam, during the remainder of the game, or throughout the following week. That's a bunch of crap. Nate, he says Miami have a bad organization in general. The way they fired that black head coach, yeah, absolutely, because he wouldn't throw the game to get a higher draft pick. Yeah, so I still think that that's part of the situation.
Right.
Where they're kind of trying to throw these games or whatever. But it kind of fools you because you think that they were trying to win when they kept Tua in.
Yeah, they were trying to win the game. That's why they wanted to win.
So, the Dolphins medical staff also determined that Tua's gross motor instability suffered was not neurologically caused. I'm going to take a minute and take a breath on that and read that again in a second.
We'll hit the bell.
But it's crazy, yeah, because they need to get it. I'm glad you brought that up. They need to get it.
Give them 2 bells. Give them 1 more for that. Yes, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. What the Richard says. So you mean to tell me after the game or during the game they never wanted to give him an MRI? Yeah. They always take them back to why wasn't after the game as a protocol.
Right.
It has to be that he gets an MRI on a head injury. Let's see. Where we at? So where are those that show that he had no trauma to his brain, that he wasn't concussed, because they would say that the MRIs proved that they are not even saying that they have those. So you,
right?
Yeah. So what are they trying to tell you? So they are lying. Yeah, absolutely. They just wanted him to come back in the game because listen, just like Richard said and just like I said, Richard put it more blunt than I did when he said he was looking like a drunk toddler. Anybody knows, adults, that when you drink and you get wasted, your motor skills are gone.
Yeah.
Or they're hindered. I'm going to say they're gone. They're hindered in a major way.
Right. Pretty much.
Your balance is off.
That's right. You get stopped by the cops, you doubt, you know how that is.
Not even that point, but your balance is off.
Right.
Your motor skills are hindered.
Right.
We saw that visually.
Right.
It's not like somebody told us, oh, Tua got knocked out and he stumbled. And we saw it.
Right.
So if we saw it on TV and saw how it looked, imagine how it looked being there live and on that field.
Preach.
The NFL should do more than just fire one person. Yeah, they're still investigating, Nate, so I'm sure some more stuff is going to come down the pipe. Let's see. The change in the protocol comes a day after the NFLPA requested the changes. The protocol ahead of Week 5, the NFL agreed to the changes. So now they're saying that Tua, because the heat is on him, Tua remains in concussion protocol, and Mike Daniel, the head coach, confirmed that he would not play against the Jets on Sunday. So the Miami signal caller didn't even travel with the team for the game this weekend. It's about time they did something right. But still on the hot seat, sir. I don't know what's going to come of the evaluation. The organization as a whole, GM, coach of themselves, they need to be fired. Yeah. So again, Nate, like you asked, I think there are going to be some more things coming down the pipe from that. I don't know how soon, but when you look at this whole entire situation, folks, this whole entire situation is saddening, is sickening, because you have a multi-billion-dollar product in the NFL.
$8 billion.
You have, since 2013, 9 years where you've changed protocols. And it seems like every year in the last couple of years, last couple of seasons, they've been trying to improve the safety of the game, safety of their players.
Right.
So this particular incident in Miami is, in my opinion, a slap in the face to the NFL, to the Players Association, who have stepped in immediately. And I applaud them for that. The NFL, I also applaud them for coming in together in joint with the Players Association and doing something about this. Immediately they changed. And again, ataxia, the abnormality of balance and stability, motor coordination, or dysfunctional speech caused by a neurological issue. So you move on to the second game 4 days later, which again, in my opinion, in no way in hell he should have been playing.
Yeah. Facts.
That particular play, the locking of his hands in an arthritic type of kind of pose. You mean to tell me that that was a back or an ankle injury? No effing way. That was a neurological injury. The motor skills were off. The abnormality of balance. He didn't have any balance. He was laying on his back. But the motor coordination and dysfunction was there. Let's see. All teams should have an independent doctor neurologist whose only job it is to diagnose and make sure players are not concussed. They should not have any affiliation with the team whatsoever. Right. And Rich, you're great with that. I didn't read your whole comment, but anybody that's tuned in can read it. But just for that part, Rich, I agree with you. And this dude that they had allegedly was unaffiliated. But I think what they should do now is I think these guys should be screened by the NFL Players Association and the NFL. There should be a few of them. And again, like Richard said, they should have no affiliation with any particular team. They should be overall in general NFL neurologists.
Pretty much.
Because we got lies from Miami and their neurologists, and then the Heat came in and they eventually fired this guy. But again, also like Richard said, where was the MRI? You can't say that they don't have the facilities or anything like that there. Anytime guys get ankle injuries or get carried off, they get x-rays at the stadium before they go to the hospital if need be.
Right.
MRIs can be done in the hospital.
Yep.
There are independent doctors on the field at the time. So again, how are you saying that nothing was wrong with this kid when, like Richard said, he looked like a drunk toddler? He looked like he was punch drunk. Richard just said after that hit in the second game, he looked like a boxer who was knocked out flat on his back. Where, yes, Mel, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Rich, he looked like a boxer that was KO'd. And when you get KO'd, that means you got a punch in the head, more than likely.
Damage.
And what does that do?
Your brain.
Your brain moves. People, if you don't know, when you get hit in the head, your brain moves.
That's right.
Why do you think when you bump your head, you get a headache? It continues to hurt.
Yeah. Something's going on wrong up there.
It's not right. When you can't move, when your hands get locked in an awkward position,
that was scary too.
That's a neurological issue.
It's like he had a seizure or something on the field.
It's a neurological issue.
There's something wrong.
And for them to say that he had an ankle and back injury, and for them to even repeat that he said it, this is where you step in as a medical professional and you say, "No, dude, you can't play. I don't care what you tell me. You fell on your back. Dude, you can't play. You can't walk.
Right.
How are you going to go and play a football game, excuse me, and you can barely walk?"
Right.
There's no way that I believe that Tua actually said that. I don't believe he could have said that.
They said it.
In that locker room. I think that's what they're reporting. So, all in all, it's a terrible situation.
Right.
Terrible situation. And I hope that something positive comes out of it. And I don't mean people, and I mean, I'm sure there are probably going to be some more heads that are going to roll. A hit in the NFL is like getting hit by a car at 35 miles an hour. Richard says, this is why they had all those neurological studies in brain. NFL's getting hurt. It's like hitting your head against the garage door. Let's see. In 30 to 40 times the way one hit is in the NFL is. Yeah. It's crazy, like I said, Rich, because when you get to the NFL, you've got guys that are 300 pounds that are running quicker than the average 300-pound person, or it's a professional athlete. So it's a physical sport. That's why they only play once a week. Now they got the short week, but it's 4 days in between. But there's no way that he should have been playing. And like I said, and more so in him getting back to doing his job, being able to perform his job, I hope that something comes out and things get better where he can be a functioning adult after football.
Right.
That's what I ask. Yeah. At this point, I'm not a Dolphins fan or whatever. I'm not a Tua big fan, but I'm in support of his situation.
Right.
And I think this situation needs to be taken a little bit more serious and needs to be handled a lot better. And I think that's the direction of the NFL and the NFLPA when hence they make these changes to the protocols. So again, like I said, we'll definitely stick to it and see, how it plays out and what happens. And I will give you reports as I get them as well. One other thing I wanted to bring to you real quick, the situation with Deion Sanders and Eddie Robinson Jr.
Oh, yeah.
After that game, it was Jackson State against, I think it was Alabama State. Alabama State homecoming. Jacksonville takes that game 26-12. They meet at the half court, center field at the end of the game to shake hands. They shake hands, and Deion went to go in and do what they normally do. You shake your hand, you give a little embrace, front embrace, and then you move on. Eddie Robinson pushed him away. Eddie Robinson felt some type of way about some of the things that Deion said about his team and scheduling them for their homecoming. He thought they were going to get a win, yada, 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 all these quotes from Deion. But here's the thing. In my opinion, and the way I look at it, that's Deion. If anybody knows Deion Sanders, that's Deion Sanders. Yeah. He's going to talk that talk no matter what.
Right, yeah.
So, in my opinion, really was no reason to take that personal. I don't think Deion took it personal. I think Deion felt some type of way because of the way that Eddie Robinson Jr. took the situation. But I really don't think Deion Sanders took it personal. Again, I think Deion said what he said before that.
I saw the video.
And then, Deion is just being Deion.
He made a comment about that on Instagram, too.
The commissioner of the NFL should suspend all operations in Miami, forfeit the Roman game, and totally clean house. Yeah, well, Nate, that's his thought, but they're not going to do that. They would lose too much money in doing that. What they'll probably do is they'll probably pressure them into making some moves and making some decisions later on down the line once they continue this investigation.
Right.
But they won't just completely knock them out because it'll mess up the system and the season and all that. But they'll go through the season, but I'm thinking more stuff is going to come down the pike, and they might even get pressured into dismissing some people.
Fines or something?
Some fines, and probably, like I said, even get pressured into dismissing some people and making a change with the staffing and stuff there.
Right.
But yeah, like the Deion thing again, in my opinion, it was like kind of nothing there. You can say it was a little hate, a little anger, because they got beat on homecoming, and Deion said that they were going to come in and beat them, and they beat them. And then he said something about Stan, thanks you, blessings to you too, Stan. He said they're going to lose money, but you can't put money on a man's life. Yeah, absolutely, but they won't do it. It's just the fact, Nate. I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear what you're saying, Nate. But right now, they're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it right now. It's not going to be done right away.
Summertime, bro.
Yeah, the Deion thing, Eddie Robinson was also upset with a couple plays where they were up a certain amount of points, and they kept playing. Well, it's football. Melvin Chappelle says it's sad, but the way sport is, I think they can come a long way. Just imagine when Ronnie Lott and Dirty Waters were playing. They knew about concussions, but didn't do much. But hopefully they are being transparent. Miami's not being transparent. That's for certain. Richard says in the Sanders situation, he says Sanders is always talking. That's just who he is. He backs it up. So Eddie got to get over. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said. I said I didn't see anything wrong with it, with what he said. And again, on top of that, when I read the comments from Eddie Robinson, I saw his point about what he said about the play, where they were running the play, where they should have been doing this. But that's the other sideline.
Right.
That's that team. That's that coach's decision to do what he did. Deion backed that up by saying, we got in late. Our game planning was condensed. So at that point, we was just, let's go get this game. And that's what they went and did. Eddie Robinson, coach your guys up a little bit more. Adjust during the game. The game is to beat your opponent and do better to stop them. Absolutely. And when you want to win, when you at that level, when you got a team down, you got to keep them down, because you never know.
They might come back.
Like Richard just said, the job is to beat your opponent.
Jimmy Johnson did.
So if you got them down, you got to keep them down, because you never know. They may come back and sneak up on you.
That's right.
And look around and you be looking, whoa, we might lose this game. So, got to take it for what it's worth. Eddie Robinson, get your you-know-what's out of a bunch. Again, like I said, Deion is being Deion.
Yeah.
He is who he is. He's not going to change for too many
player.
people. But, like Richard also said, he says what he says and he backs it up.
Yes, he does.
So,
confidence.
Those type of situations put somewhat of a stigma, a little cloud over those situations, because Deion went out there just to shake his hand. And then Eddie Robinson was kind of nitpicking. He started talking about Deion walking around the field, and he was by their huddle in the beginning of the game and all this other stuff. So it's a little hate there.
Yeah, like a girl.
Thomas Williams, thanks for tuning in. Let's see here. Who's this? Richard. In college games, you always see where the team in the first half gets a big, and they take their foot off the gas pedal. In the second half, the other team competes.
Right.
And it just happened that there's a Stanford game that they were, that they were up by 17 going into the fourth quarter, and they lost absolutely by 1 point because they let the team come back on their throat with 13 seconds to go in the game after they lost. Yeah, because it happens. It can happen. It's liable to happen. There's possibilities that it can happen. So when you got teams down, like I said, when you kick them, you got to kick them hard and keep them down. When you put put your foot on the pedal, you gotta put it to the metal. Keep it going, because teams make adjustments. You never know what might happen.
Yeah.
So, Eddie Robinson, you need to just suck it up. It is what it is. You lost that game. And Deion even also went as far as to say, I hope they schedule us again. But he might want to think about that severely before he schedules us again on homecoming. I have no issues with that, any of that at all. Like I said, Deion went out, he shook his hand, he tried to do the thing. He didn't even think about that type of situation that Eddie Robinson Jr. made it into.
Right.
Deion is just like I said. Deion is being Deion. If anybody knows anything about Deion Sanders, the way he talks, the way his mannerisms are,
like
that's him. He's been that way since, like Frank Thompson, since he was a player.
Yeah.
He's been like that since Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I still remember the documentary they did on Florida State, and they had Deion come and talk to the team, and Deion told those guys when he was talking to Jalen Ramsey, he told him, he said, "Look, you go in this film room, and you pick up any reel off that thing, and you're gonna see 21 in it putting in work.
That's right.
You walk through these halls,
you're
gonna see 21.
Right.
And that's what you're supposed to do."
I love Deion.
And he even said, when I played, I ain't care if you was my brother, my teammate, whoever. I didn't care if you had your mom, your wife, your girlfriends in the stands. I'm coming to embarrass you because that's my job. I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, confident.
If anybody sees anything wrong with that in sports at a competitive level, you're freaking crazy. You don't need to like sports.
Mm-hmm.
That is the epitome of a competitive nature, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Richard said it. Your job is to beat your opponent.
Right.
You got to score more points than they do.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? You got to take it.
Yeah, right.
They ain't going to give it to you, especially at the pro level. It's not going to be given to you.
Right.
You got to go and take it.
Right.
However you need to go and take it, you got to go and take it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Jackson State did. Eddie Robinson didn't like it. He didn't approve of it. Whatever. It happens in the league. It goes around. And those are the things that happen when stuff like that is put about in front of you. Got to coach your guys up some more. Everybody talks trash in every sport. It's the nature of the game. Absolutely, Nate. And like I said, Eddie Robinson, just coach your guys up. Coach them up. Use it as a learning game.
Right.
To what they need to do to get to that level.
Right.
That's what you need to do. Use that as a learning tool.
Right.
It's crazy, but it is what it is. That's the way it played out. I didn't really like it. Not really my cup of tea, but got to report on it, got to talk to you about it. So that's what I did. So, folks, pretty much wraps up today. We're a little early today.
Yeah.
Got to wrap up. We got to give you our week 6 picks and do that. So we'll get to that in just a second. Let me get my sheets out here.
Yes, sir.
So
thank you.
First, before we get to that, let's get to this first. This tonight, like I said, tonight closes out week 5. Chiefs. Las Vegas at Kansas City. I already picked the Chiefs in that game at home, so there's no questions about that. It's not going to be a close game. You don't think so? Hell no. The Raiders and the Chiefs in Arrowhead, it's not going to be a close game at all.
Real quick,
there's no reason why he was called. Richard said there's a reason why he was called prime time because he showed up to play in every game. Absolutely. Tonight's game is not. It's not going to be a close game. It would really surprise me.
The Raiders are disappointing
if it's a close game.
Yeah. I was playing around.
The Raiders are that team where you never know who's going to show up.
Yeah, they're very disappointing team.
And then a lot of times when they do show up, they don't show up for the complete game. So I like Kansas City in that game tonight. Moving to Thursday to kick off week 6.
You like
Washington at Chicago. I'm taking Chicago, and then I'm going with Justin Fields over. Hey, Martinez Margarita cousin, thanks for tuning in.
Shocker.
San Francisco at Atlanta. I'm taking the Niners there. New England at Cleveland. I'm going New England. The Jets and the Packers. Packers are back at home. I'm taking the Packers. Jacksonville, Indianapolis.
I'm taking Jacksonville.
Even though Jacksonville went up on us 14-0, but then we handled them. I'm stretching here. I'm going to go Indy with the veteran Matt Ryan. Yeah. Minnesota at Miami. Definitely going Minnesota. Quarterback situation is horrible in there. The last 3 games have been horrible on Thursday night. Denver and the Colts last week. How we see Chicago. Man, they got to get better. Yeah, they got to get better games on Thursday. Absolutely, Rich. Cincinnati at New Orleans. I'm going with Cincy.
Me too.
Ooh, this is a tough one, too. The Ravens at the Giants.
Baltimore.
I'm going with Baltimore. I think the quarterback play is better on that side. Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, with all the stuff going on in Pittsburgh, I'm going with Tampa Bay. The Rams are home against the Panthers. They just fired their head coach, so it's going to be a lot of hype there. I'm going with the Rams at home. Arizona at Seattle.
I'm going with Arizona.
I'm going with Seattle at home.
I'm going with Arizona.
I'm just not sold. I still think
They lost
that there's something going on in Arizona as far as communication with coaching staff, quarterback, certain situations of games, because they keep trying to live on this thing that they're a comeback team. That's not going to get you through the entire season, bruh. You coming up against some teams that are going to be there to beat you. Like, you thought you was a second half team against the Eagles, and when that ball started to slow down and run the ball, you had to use them timeouts. You got pressured in, so I'm going with Seattle at home.
This is going to be a real good game. Right
Buffalo at Kansas City, the game of the week.
I'm going with the Bills.
I am also. I'm going with the Bills in the game. I like Kansas City, but I'm going to go with the Bills. Next Sunday night, and yes, Arrowhead, I'm still going with the Bills in the upset.
I don't like to pick this game. It's a pick 'em game right here. I'm not
Dallas at Philadelphia. I'm going with the Eagles at home. Because like I said, I think, not even so much because I'm an Eagles fan, but I think what they showed me, even with the kinks, what they showed me yesterday in running the ball late to secure that time, knock that time down, and they showed it the week before against Jacksonville.
Pick 'em game.
Run that clock. I think the Eagles will run the ball, and I think they'll know that because of the last 2 weeks and be ready to run the ball. I like the Eagles. I think it's going to be a close game, but I like the Eagles to edge them out. Like I said, again, the Eagles have to be definitively precise on offense. I think they can do it.
It's going to show me y'all ready to go to the postseason.
I think they can do it. Next Monday, Denver at the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers at home. Coming up tonight, preseason NBA.
Oh, yeah.
You got the Wizards and the Hornets, Rockets, Heat, Sixers, Cavs, and Suns and Nuggets. Again, Monday Night Football, Raiders and Chiefs tonight. Also, Major League Baseball playoffs continue Tuesday, tomorrow night. Division Series, Dodgers and the Padres, Phillies and the Braves are the National League. In the American League, the Mariners and the Astros, the Guardians and the Yankees. Should be some good series going on there. Folks, thanks everybody for tuned in. Nate, Cousin Cookie, Nate, Richard, as always, Melvin Chappelle,
thanks for joining
Ahmed Afif, everybody else that tuned in, Stan Groovy Laws, everybody else that tuned in but just and were entertained and did not chime in. We appreciate you as well. As always, you can find me right here each and every Monday, heat100radio.com. You can get me SportsRap Podcast is the group page at SportsRap_D on Instagram and Twitter. YouTube, SportsRap TV. Webpage, sportsrapradio.com. You can get me all week on social media right back here on Monday. Yes, Phillies, absolutely rich. Red October. Don't forget about our pass rush. And we are going to get out there, quarterback. Absolutely, I think that'll be great, Mel. Thanks, Rich, for tuning in. Great show with your input as well. Folks, thanks for tuning in. This Thursday, we will not be at the Drake. We are scheduled to be there at the Drake. We will not be at the Drake. I will be at the City Winery enjoying I Am Athlete. My guy, Shady McCoy, Brandon Marshall, Adam Pac-Man Jones will be in the building. Sports Rap will be in the building. I'll let you know about all of that next Monday when I come back to the show. Still got some tickets left. You can get on citywinery.com and get you a ticket to get in that building and get a look at that podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy your Monday. Be great on purpose. And we will see you, like I said, all week on social media right back here next Monday.
But then we ran off the show real quick before I roll on out of here.